Going up the stairs, the girl meets the mason who greets her, "Good morning, madam, how are you?" But she tells him not to touch her and says, "Look here, you useless person, I want to talk to the person in charge of the service." He asks her to leave calm down and call Paolo. "Paolo, come here." The foreman arrives and the mason explains that you would like to speak with him. "You are Miss Paula, right? How can I help you?" he asks. The girl then asks, "I would like to know who owns this work here, because I need one for my house." Paolo replies, saying that he is responsible and extends his hand to greet her. But irritated she screams, "No, don't touch me. You said you're responsible, but I want to know who owns it." He starts to explain, saying the owners are the father and son, Rosamar and David. "Wait here for a bit, I'm going to go over there and get some papers." She tells him to go soon, because she doesn't have all the time in the world. When the foreman leaves, the mason says, "Lady, with all due respect, can I tell you something? Have you ever been told that you are the most beautiful woman in this world?" And she replies, "Firstly, my name is Miss Paula, and secondly, I don't care about your compliments. I don't care. You're just a disgusting bricklayer." He apologizes and says it was just a compliment, but she tells him to stay away, saying, "Get out of here, you poor thing. You keep picking up these dirty things here at the construction site, and you want to touch me." He replies that he is being very polite to her, and she tells him not to talk to her anymore and leaves screaming, "Poor and dirty." Alone, the mason thinks sincerely, these women cannot be understood, and then he goes after her who was outside. When he gets there, he asks for permission, but she doesn't like to have met him again and says, "You again? No, it's possible, you disgusting mason." He says he'd like to redeem himself, asks her out and says they just started off the wrong way, but he'd like to make things right. She, not believing what he said, replied, "Do you really think that a woman like me is going to go out with a mason like you? Put yourself in his place, right?" And he continues saying, "I was just trying to be polite to you, Paula." She complains about the way he is referring to her and corrects, "Don't Paula, no, it's Miss Paula for you." He says that then he won't insist anymore since she doesn't want to. However, she rethinks and decides to accept the invitation, asking if he knows the son of the owner of the work. He replies saying that he knows her very well, and she says, "I understand, and could you introduce me to him? Who knows, maybe I'll become his future wife and the owner of all this here." He accepts the deal. "I'll show you around and you go out to lunch with me." She confirms that it's exactly that, a deal, and demands, "But, just so you know, I don't eat those kinds of lunches that you poor people eat. I'm a classy girl." He replies saying that he will take her to the best place. She says it needs to be a place as good as she is, and asks how he will be able to pay. "Your wish is an order. If you want, I will get it," he replies, and asks her to accompany him. He leaves for a few minutes and comes back with snacks. The girl who had her back turned around. When she sees what it is, she screams, "But what is this?" And he replies, "I have some snacks. I think you'll like them." But Paula takes one of the snacks and asks if he's kidding. He confirms that that would be their lunch and says, "This here is our food, Paula, you need to be more humble." And she asks if she looks like she's eating those things and throws one of the snacks on the floor. He indignantly talks about how many people in the world are starving. But Paula replies, "I only agreed to have lunch with you because I was really hungry, and you show me here with this." He insists that he did all that with great affection, and she rubs the other snack in his face, saying, "If I'm treating you this way, it's because you deserve it. I treat everyone the way I want, understand?" He replies that he doesn't need this treatment and asks what he did to her. Shouting replies, "The reason it's your way, you want to know some DAC. As soon as he leaves, he finds the person in charge. "I don't know what I'm doing anymore." And the person in charge, who was listening to their entire conversation, says, "Why don't you just tell her the whole truth?" He responds by saying that he needs Paula to like him for who he is and not for what he has. Paolo asks if he's going to keep letting Paula humiliate him like that, and reminds him, "I already told you that she's a self-interested woman who only thinks about money." He says that he will keep insisting until he softens Paula's heart. But Paolo disagrees with him, saying that this type of woman doesn't want to know about poor people. "You dressing like a bricklayer. She will never accept you." He thanks for the advice, but that in the end your tactic will work. He goes back to where Paula is, arriving from behind. He tries to make a joke, but Paula doesn't like it and asks if he's going crazy. He shows her the flowers he picked for her and asks if she's not going to hold them. Paula replies, "No, I'm not going. Do you really think you're going to win me over with those cheap little flowers?" He replies that he bought it with great affection, and she says that there are many other suitors who are much better than him. "If you want to win me over, improve your money," he asks. "But what else could please you, Paula?" And she, playing the flower on the ground, asks, "Are you deaf? I've already told you more than once that you are Miss Paula," and he asks why she acts like that. Answering, she says that she wants to eat expensive chocolates, something he can't buy, and he, disagreeing, asks, "What chocolate do you want? I can buy it." She replies that it's too expensive and says, "If you're able to buy one for me, I can even go out with you." He says he'll find a way, and walks away. A little later, he comes back with a brigadeiro and offers it to her, who asks, "Is that an expensive chocolate? That shouldn't have cost even 2 reis." He replies that it was expensive, but she doesn't believe it and throws the candy on the floor. He, demonstrating not knowing what else to do, he says, "But again, Paula, I brought food and you threw it on the floor. I don't know how to win you over." And she replies that he needs to introduce the owner's son soon. "I'm not interested in you. Don't you understand yet?" He says that since she insists, he will introduce him, and she tells him to go soon. He leaves angry and goes to talk to Paolo. "You know what? I give up. I did everything to win that woman over and nothing worked." And when asked by Paolo about what he's going to do, he says he's going to tell her everything and rub it in her face, that not everything it's money, but that will irritate her a little more. Paolo likes the idea and says it will help him. Going back to where she is, Paula asks if she doesn't want to go to the cinema with him, and he replies that again, "You can only have problems. It's not possible." It seems that he likes to be mistreated. He says that he came back especially to make the invitation, but since she don't have anything to do. Nervous, Paula shouts, "I want you to introduce me to the owner's son. I already told you." So leaving, he decides to stop insisting and agrees to introduce the owner's son. Soon after, Paolo comes back saying that David, the owner's son, is already coming. She complains about the stalling, but when she looks forward, she sees the car arriving with the bricklayer getting out of the car. Seeing this, she asks Paolo, "You're kidding me, right? That's not possible. Seriously?" Paolo replies that it's not a joke and that over there is Mr. David, owner of this and many other works. Called close to them, David asks, "And now can I just call you Paula?" She doesn't believe it, asks, "You can only be kidding that you have a car like that. Is it yours?" He responds by saying that's his work car and he has 5 more. She asks if he wasn't just a mason, and he replies, "Yes, you can't judge by people's clothes and manners. I'm a mason and an engineer. I always learned from my father that I need to monitor all works from the beginning." Paula, trying to reverse the story, explains that she did not discredit him at any time and that moment there was just a joke. "But didn't you invite me to the movies?" She asks. David laughs at her and says that people like her, he just wants distance. Paolo confirms that he saw Paula humiliating David, but he says that it's not worth arguing with that kind of woman, knowing how they are. Paula starts begging for one more chance, and he asks, "Do you think I'm stupid?" Paolo, "Get away from that girl." The two leave laughing and leave her begging for their attention.